All right. Good morning. Welcome to Sidelines edition on this Friday morning, August 5th. Rob Brown here with you live from our sponsor, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tell you what, the sales floor out here looks like it did, Duncan Williams. You got the trading desk up there. You've got the sales guys up there, all the Bloombergs, the big screens. They're giving out, morning comments and directions. This is really, really cool. A lot of energy in this place. Trade-ins, best they've been in over 20 years. Service department open. Also on Saturdays, 7:30 to 12:30. Austin Futrell and the guys in there. 25 service bays. It looks a lot like Talladega and the pit crew down there, man. They'll get you in and out of here in a hurry. They've got over 700 used cars, trucks, and SUVs. John Dobbs Jr. from Memphis. That family's been in the car and truck business for a long time. Is partners with the Ward family in Red River Auto Group, and that's Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They are open here in just a few minutes. Hey, we got a great lineup today. Wesley Britt, Alabama football player, NFL football player. Of course, his wife, Katie, is running for the U.S. Senate from Alabama. We'll talk a little about the campaign and some Crimson Tide football and SEC football. I know Wesley has a PTSD of those coaches coming in there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's go. Come on, let's get moving. Get your head out of your rear and let's go. I know he's remembering and wishing he was out there for 2 a days, 3 a days back in those days, but I don't know if they allow that anymore. Yeah, there he goes. Like, you got to be kidding me. In the second segment, we will be joined by Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com down in Gainesville. Always has great commentary, not just on the Gators, but SEC and college football. Top of the second hour, Section 3, longtime college football coach, graduate of Banks High School in Birmingham. Has coached at Tennessee, Ole Miss, spent the last 13 years as the head football coach at Duke, is now in the SEC office in Birmingham. David Cutcliffe will join us. Hey, what makes a great quarterback a better quarterback? He ought to know, and it's going to be fun. And in the fourth section, Richmond Weaver will check in from the upstate over in Greenville, South Carolina, Clemson, ACC, and an update as he gets closer to the launch, the release of his documentary, SoCon, the Super Conference, 100 years. We may be going back to that if this conference expansion continues, but here's what we're going to talk about today. We ain't talking about NIL. We ain't talking about the transfer portal. We're talking about college football, the lessons of life. And Wesley Britt, I want to say thanks for taking time out of your Friday morning to join us. And I know you're kind of busy. Your wife, Katie, is running for the U.S. Senate from Alabama. We had Senator Coach Tuberville on here about 7-8 weeks ago. Can't wait to get him back on. But how's the campaign going? And then let's talk some college football and how people can support you as well.
Rob, Johnny, thank you so much for having me on this. Y'all are the best, and it's always an honor to be asked back on. Every time I get finished, I tell myself, hey, they'll never ask me back on, but
Yeah,
I
will.
appreciate it, buddy.
Glad to do it.
Yes, the campaign is going great, but first let me clear something up. It's 100 and some degrees out there, and looking back when we used to do 3 a days, I could not imagine doing anything like that again. That is like, I don't know how we made it through it. There were days when I would lose 15 to 20 pounds and have to get put on IVs with full body cramps during those days. And people would just walk. Our top 2 recruits, Mac Tyler and Albert Means, just walked off the field after like 2 days of it. It was something else. But as an offensive lineman, that's when at some point you flip the switch. Yeah. And you realize you got to do what it takes to make your blocks, to finish blocks, and you realize that when you think you're dead and tired and you can't go any further, you realize you can. Yeah. And I think that is something we're missing in the game today, because the rules have changed. I don't even think you can go back-to-back full pads anymore for practices. But it's good. But the campaign, thanks for asking, is going fantastic. We're so blessed. We've just been working every day. I'm headed to Dothan right now for an event, and Katie's headed to the other side of the state for a trade association meeting. And but we're getting out and taking the message to the people. We're so grateful that the people of Alabama voted Katie as the Republican nominee. Yeah. It was coming from 65. I think the early polls had our opponent at 65%, and us at 2%. And we just worked hard and took the message to the people. This old school grassroots campaign, and have somebody who loves our country, who wants to serve our people, who wants to represent our conservative Christian values, and do it honestly and do it with integrity, is unfortunately a rare thing these days. This novel concept that you have somebody that wants to work for the people, but it resonated everywhere we went. And we'll continue.
Absolutely. Hey, Shug Jordan said one time when Auburn was going up to Birmingham to play Alabama, Auburn was a big underdog. He said, well, as I recall, David was a 40-point underdog to Goliath.
Hey, that's right. We all know how that turned out.
That's right. All right. Look, man, football, Jimmy and I, everybody listening, we love football. And I tell you what, I love that update. I'm in Alabama a lot, all over the state. You're down in the Wiregrass down there, man. 431, 231 down there in Daleville, Pike County, Houston County. You got Flowers and Southeast Regional Medical Center. I tell you, Dothan's a cool city, about 100,000, but it serves a big chunk of, Southwest Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, and Southeast Alabama. That is a great city. I love it. It's not just the peanut capital of the world, but it's got some of the best people. And you're lucky, man, getting to travel. You're from Coleman, but you're lucky. And there's nothing like the state of Alabama. 65 counties. Yeah, it is. I'm with you. Right now,
Katie's dad sold bass boats in Dothan for 40 years, and so it's it's a second home to us.
Yeah,
a second home to me.
Yeah,
and Katie's from the area.
Yeah,
so I can't wait.
Yeah, listen, you want to get close to people's hearts, do it with hunting and fishing in the state of Alabama. And Coach Dye used to say the only thing bigger than college football in the state of Alabama is hunting and fishing. I mean, and that's I'd say they're tied because, a lot of people over here in Arkansas on opening weekend of duck season, if the Razorbacks are playing, a lot of times they'll play in Little Rock. You go to the game, and instead of them wearing their Razorback red, there's a lot of camo, a lot of bottomland and shadowgrass. Somebody needs to come up with a
waders, all the above.
Yeah, it's all the above. All right, college football season, can believe it or not, we are 480 hours away from the first game. Kind of get us in the mindset of what's going on, be it Tuscaloosa, Memphis, Fayetteville, Baton Rouge, Seattle, Los Angeles. What is it? What's going on right now? And kind of what do you think these guys have been doing at Alabama and other schools all summer long? They ain't been watching SpongeBob SquarePants. I guarantee it.
I can guarantee you that. There's a lot of anxiety and excitement right now in the players' minds. It's you put in the work, what you've done, but there's still so much unknown. It's when nobody was on campus after spring exams. Most of those players stayed and trained until some students came back for the summer semesters, and all of Alabama's team was there practicing, and all of Arkansas's team there practicing, working. So everybody's doing it. Now you go into camp, you think what you're about to get into, but it's always more in some new wrinkle. But Coach Dubose, actually, the first day of camp, he said we had 29 days of football practice. We had 29 practices to get to this camp. You know what? And I think we're playing UCLA. The UCLA has 29 practices. So he put penny rolls on a scale, both sides of the old school scale, 29-29, just assuming that they would win, that they would every day and every practice, they'd have a good practice. So we had to figure out that make the most of every snap, every practice, every game, get ready to win football games.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the cool thing about it is how tough you work together with a bunch of guys in the summer. That's when you really forge the identity of your team, because you're going to be closer in life as you go along. And you've seen it, Jimmy, it. Jimmy played college football, Wesley, at La Monroe, and baseball, and UT Chattanooga, where he finished playing for Joe Lee Dunn. But the people you go through the toughest times with, I don't care what it is, sports, pledge program, whatever it is, going to school together. Always keep close. You're going to stay close with the people that you worked your ass off with that never quit. That's the number one thing that we love about sports is, you know what? You want something, go earn it, go work for it. And that's, I mean,
that's right.
I guarantee you.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who your mom, when you get on the football field, it doesn't matter who your mom and dad is. It doesn't matter what color you are, how much money you have in your bank account.
Yeah.
It matters if you're willing to make plays.
Yeah.
Make plays and do the work to get to that point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jimmy, jump in here, man.
Yeah, Wesley, Coach Saban talked a couple of days ago about having to, replace key positions on both sides of the ball. And one of his famous sayings in my mind is that no matter who you are in Division I college football, you've got to replace 25% of your roster every year. And he said a couple of days ago that we originally thought at the end of last year, we had a good chance to return 9 starters on offense and 9 starters on defense. And then we have a number of players that go into the draft early. And we know after the season, it's kind of a cliffhanger among a certain number of players, whether they should come back and, get another needed year of experience at the highest level of college football to improve their draft stock, or whether, hey, I think my stock is as high as it will be, and let's just go in the draft now. So you had a number of players that did make that decision to go into the draft. So now we have 5 returning starters, I think, on offense and 7 on defense. I think that's fairly close. And so even at Alabama, you've got to make a lot of changes. And Saban did a great job, obviously, with the transfer portal. But for the returning players that are coming back and these players that learned the system last year but didn't play a lot, how important is it? Because this is the first time in several years in which Alabama is going to have both coordinators returning, with Bill O'Brien coming back on the offensive side of the ball. And, of course, Golding has settled in nicely. But how big is that to have both coordinators back?
That's incredible. And Billy O and Coach O'Brien and I go way back. He was a graduate assistant type analyst at the New England Patriots, and he's as good as they come. He loves the game. And just a good person too, and he cares about these athletes, and they know that. And I think that consistency with having coordinators who are good at what they do, not only good at what they do, but care about the players as people, as a special mix, special sauce to the recipe, where you can't. It's hard to quantify it, but it matters. It matters when when you have a coach and it's 110 degrees outside, and you have a coach yelling down your neck. Copenhagen being spit in your face, so because they're right in your face mask. It matters when they care about you, and they're there for you, and you're there with you. So that's going to be a big deal. And then the consistency with the players. It was last year. That's what's crazy is last year was a rebuilding year. And we still won, and Alabama still won 13 games. Alabama won 13 games and of course lost in the national championship game to Georgia, but had a great year. We had 7 players drafted, 2 in the first round. And then we have starters. You talk about our starters, but the crazy thing now is I don't even know how to consider it. I don't like it. But the transport portal, we have starters from other schools coming back, top receivers, top offensive linemen. Coming to Alabama, which makes the off season and camp even more important for that team chemistry. It's going to be fun to see, but this coordinator is going to be in a good position because they know now what kind of players they have. They don't have to. When you're a first year coordinator, sometimes the coordinators get too ambitious and they try to win the games. But when you have the athletes that they do in Tuscaloosa, that you do in Arkansas, you let your players play and the players win the games. And I think that's one thing when you have a coordinator who feels safe in their job, is returning, it gives them more flexibility to allow them to do that, but they don't have to be the show.
Yeah. Hey, Wesley, we're going to take a quick break and come back. And, again, you draw from not just your high school and your college experiences, but playing for a man named Bill Belichick. Knows a thing or two about football. And I want you to talk about what you learned from him. And we're going to be with you, folks, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. Also on 680thefan.com, the podcast park, right after this. And on Kicks 96 FM tomorrow in Alexander City in Central Alabama, right back after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Yeah, Wesley, I got to tell you a funny story. And the statute of limitations have run out, but one of my friends was playing starting right tackle for Auburn in the 2002 Florida game. And that's when you were in college. And Auburn was down in the swamp, and one of his teammates, Danny Lindsay, from Dublin, Georgia, they were down in the swamp, and my friend Mark jumped off sides. Yet when they walked over to the sidelines, Hugh Nall grabbed Danny Lindsay, and let's just say he was not telling him how much he loved him and have a nice day. And he goes, I felt so bad. And I said, because, Nall was famous for breaking a few, whiteboards on the sidelines. And he goes, I go, well, did you tell him it was you? He goes, hell no. So, and you think about
that was the year before they started calling out the number of who did it.
Yeah. So that's exactly what it was. And Mark said, he goes, I was walking off, and he was 6'5", about 305 himself. And he said, Nall grabbed Lindsay, and it was, you remember the movie Christmas Story when, his mother said, where'd you learn that word from? Where'd you learn it from? He goes, it was Ralph, it was Schwartz. And you hear Schwartz's mother on the other end of the line, screaming. That's what it was. But talk about Bill Belichick. He seems like, I've never met him. I'd sure love to talk to him on the show, but you played for him. You worked for him. You were part of that. What are some of the takeaways from your time with the New England Patriots?
Working for that organization, being part of that team, was absolutely incredible. I can, just a childhood dream that you work toward, but you don't ever know if it is possible, became reality. And I'm just incredibly blessed to have that opportunity. But in not only playing the NFL, but playing for Bill Belichick, playing with Tom Brady, Randy Moss. I mean, some of the greatest to ever play the game. Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I couldn't begin to like looking back. Looking back what that meant to me. But Bill Belichick is his love for the game and the way he studies it is unparalleled. If there's any way close to it, it's definitely Nick Saban. Did y'all watch The Making of the Coach? It was HBO special, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and their relationship.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, and when they kicked, Bill said, "Hey, I hadn't seen Nick in almost a year. Can we have some private time?" They kicked everybody else, and somebody left the camera on. And it wasn't how's your wife, how's the family. They started talking about what were you thinking on 3rd down and 2 against Georgia when there was 13 seconds left on the second half. I mean, it was they love football. It's incredible. And Bill, his attention to detail. One day we were walking off the field. After a practice, and Bill comes up to me and said, he put his arm around me. He said, "Wesley, today on 34 lead zone, you were taking a 12-inch lead step, my first step." He said, "Now, 34 lead zone, just a regular run play to the right, calls for a 6-inch lead step. If you don't fix that tomorrow, you're not going to have a job."
Wow.
You got that? And, and like that brutal honesty, but heck, you know what? I can fix that. I can fix 6-inch steps.
Yeah.
But his attention to detail is incredible. Like I couldn't quit thinking about how he noticed that before film review on the field, my step 6 inches too long. But it's just little things, and it's that attention to detail that creates championship teams.
Yeah.
It's incredible to play for.
Wesley, to piggyback on that, everybody, I think, to this very day, when you think about Super Bowls, is still stunned about Seattle calling the slant play from the 2-foot line in the Super Bowl when, they gained 5 yards on the previous play with beast mode.
Yep.
And the thing about it is when they asked Malcolm Butler what made him think they were going to throw the slant, and which allowed him to, anticipate the play and then make an incredible interception. In fact, I have no idea how he could have caught a ball at that velocity from that short of a distance with him, not really having time to react. And he said that we had spent hours and hours in the film room watching tape, and we could tell just by their formation that they were going to run that play. And that was the type of attention to detail that I'm sure virtually every New England Patriot, current and former, remembers the most about Belichick, because again, that type of film study can often make the difference between victory and defeat.
Oh, absolutely. And you've all seen the pictures and heard stories about Ernie. He's the guy that's always never says a word, doesn't talk to the team. Everybody always wonders what he does. Even when you're on the team, he walks around and he has about 1.5 inches thick glasses on at all times, and wears multicolored T-shirts. It looks like Joseph Coates many colors, but he is. But he would give us the one thing he did, he'd prepare a stat sheet. And we would get stat sheets that were so detailed. It was like on second and third in the first half of the third quarter, they blitzed 87% of the time. And it was incredible. But to have that level of detail at first when I first saw this, like, this is just a bunch of junk. When I get on the football field, there's no way that I can remember this stuff or recall it. I'm just going out trying to hit somebody and to hit the guy that I'm supposed to block. But it was the Patriot way. You put in so much work, and you do recall those. You have an offensive line looking at DB formations where they're lining it up, the joker sneaking up into the box. You're looking at the clock, what kind of time's left, and knowing what motions we have in our backfield and how that's going to impact the linebacker shifts and any blitzes they may have on. It's about the little things. It's about the little things, but you got to put in the work in the study, have somebody capable of doing it.
Yeah. Hey, Maury Gaston says hello. He's up in Indianapolis for a trade conference this week. Got to tour the Indianapolis 500 racetrack, but said tell Wesley hello. And a lot of people.
Oh, I love Maury.
Yeah, a lot of people texting you. And I know you made a pilgrimage over there to 715 West Magnolia to the Sigma Nu House at Auburn, and got to meet a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Look, man. You're
a couple times.
Yeah. Wait till you get up on the Spring River next week. You're fixing to. You're going to have a blast. You're all over the place. But I got to tell you, I like what Jimmy just piggybacked on about the attention to detail, and just how tough it is to. You played 5 years in the NFL. You walked away,
right,
on your terms, but the bond that you have with and the connection to the game, it just gets stronger through the years, doesn't it?
It does. There's a point when you're done. I didn't walk away on my terms. That's just the nature of the game. Somebody younger and cheaper, and faster, and stronger comes up, and you get fired. So that's the way it happened, And but you find a way to draw back on what you've learned, the things, the transferable skill sets, and you use those every day in your life moving forward. Those are the things you learn, and you just got to figure out how to make that transition. But those little things, those attention to details, that work ethic. Bill used to always say, "Don't wait on somebody to make the play. You go make the play." And those are lessons that we talked about through this campaign constantly.
Yeah,
constantly. That don't wait on somebody else to do your task, whatever it is. Everything's equally important. You go make the play.
Yeah.
Focusing on the next play. Those lessons of the next play is the most important play. Don't worry about that, because you have so many events in a campaign. In the campaign, there were times when Katie was doing 6 or 7 speeches a day, but it was focused on the next one. You look at everything, you get overwhelmed, thinking about the next meeting or the next group, the best group of Alabamans you're going to talk to and visit with, but it can be overwhelming. But you focus on that next play, and they're all things that I learned playing for Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And think about this: when you win, you're going to have Katie, your wife, and then Tommy Tuberville up in Washington. You think football matters in Alabama?
We had early on in the campaign, somebody come up to us, they said, "Katie, I am so excited that we are finally going to have both parties represented in D.C." And Kate said, "Well, Coach Tuberville is a good conservative also."
Yeah.
They said, no, that's not what I mean. We're going to have a Auburn football coach and the wife of an Alabama football player. That's what this country needs.
That's right. Hey, I just got a text in from Jay Rodney down in South Alabama. You damn right. It's just.
I mean, but it is.
It is. Look, the Alabama gang's coming up this weekend. What's cool is that I remember meetings. People don't realize that rivalry on the field is as intense as it gets, but off the field, they're all working together.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Because we spent a lot of time in Lee County and Auburn, and just great people. Some of my best friends are actually guys I played, not only played for Auburn, but guys who I played against. Brett Hedden, the defensive end.
Oh yeah.
We did battles, and we were best friends. My best friend from high school, Jimmy St. Louis, signed with Auburn.
Yep, I remember it.
Tied in.
Yeah.
And, absolute best friend. I grew up a huge Auburn fan.
Yeah.
It's the nature of college football, and it's a family thing. And you fight amongst family, but at the end of the day, you're family, and you don't let anybody else come to our state and mess with our family.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as true a statement as you can get. I love that. It's very true. I mean, look, unfortunately, we run out of time. We'll do this again, and tell people we'll do this again very soon. Tell people how they can support you and follow the campaign and keep up with you and Katie.
Please, of course, Katie Britt for AL, Katie Britt for Alabama on all the social media sites, and then Katie Britt for Senate.com please visit the site, learn more about Katie, what she stands for, what she believes in her values, and any contribution, whether it's volunteer work, voting, talking, posting, or financial, is needed and appreciated. And you're going to have somebody in the United States Senate. In Arkansas has got some great. Tom Cotton is one of the best. Tom Cotton and Sarah Huckabee Sanders are two of the best young politicians, political figures in the country. So y'all know, we got good representation. We got to all rally behind good people and support them. And make sure that they can represent us.
We're going to have you running the lead blocker on that one. But Wesley, look, we'll do it again soon. I look forward to getting to see you next week, and keep working hard and be safe down there. And really appreciate your time being on here on Sidelines with us. Okay.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Johnny. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care. That is Wesley Britt, man. Not just Alabama football player, but a good man. And he's going to be doing some serious trout fishing up on the Spring River next weekend. So get ready. You'll learn a lot. You're going to have a blast. Franz Beard is going to be on here with us. GatorbaitMedia.com. Franz, you there with us down in Gainesville?
Yes, I am.
Okay, because I merged you in and your number disappeared, and I said, uh-oh, here we go. But, man, I tell you what, it is college football season. Jimmy and I talking with Wesley Britt. He's got a campaign going with his wife, Katie, and talking football at Alabama, SEC, his time with the Patriots. I'm going to tell you what, you think, again, football matters. You're about to have two senators from the state of Alabama. The Iron Bowl goes to Washington, D.C. Gators, man, a lot of people asking a lot of questions. You know, one thing I've heard you and Buddy Martin talk about a lot on the Buddy Martin Show Monday through Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com is how large the press corps is that follows Florida football. And it's huge. You've got over 20 million people in the state, and there's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of questions, but the center, the core of it are you and Buddy Martin and Ben Troop. We had him on the show earlier this week. Y'all really have a feel. Let's talk about where you feel like the Gators are heading right now, what you've seen so far from, whether it's 15 minutes of stretching or whatever, but you're a true journalist. You dig, you ask a lot of questions. You have a good idea of where the Gator program is going. Chris Doering made the comment about this fan base, and he's got a right to do it. I mean, he's a Gator legend. Sometimes people just need to appreciate what they have and not spend all the time worrying about what they don't have and be appreciative of what they've got. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, definitely. And Pat Dooley, when he was with the Gainesville Sun, wrote this little line that I have saved in my memory bank, and I use it on my columns occasionally. But it's so true. He says, nobody suffers winning quite like Gator fans. You think about that.
That's deep thoughts with Jack Handy. Wow. It's true.
You think about how Florida fans, winning. Dan Jenkins once wrote about us. He said, "We have the arrogance of Notre Dame and the tradition of Wake Forest." Well, we got better tradition than Wake Forest now. We've done some things. He wrote that before Florida had ever done anything. This was pre-Steve Spurrier when he wrote that. But you would think that Florida had a tradition that stretched way before Spurrier of winning big. And quite frankly, football really didn't begin here until 1960 when Ray Graves beat Georgia Tech 18-17. Georgia Tech came in here, I think ranked 5th in the country. Florida had never beaten a team in the top 10 in its history. And here we are, we come out there and we win that game 18-17 by going for 2. It just changed. That changed the dynamic, but it has taken a long time. It took another 30 years before Florida won an SEC championship.
Yeah.
And now we've won 8 since then, but we haven't won one since 2008.
Franz, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break because I love how you're laying this out. People need to understand the numbers behind Florida football. It's a great program, but it didn't happen overnight. We're going to talk about it after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, Go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Friends, as you were, carry on. You were making a great case, kind of chronicling the rise of Florida football.
Well, Florida had some near championships. We had a couple during the Ray Graves era. Georgia beat Florida, for example, during Steve Spurrier's senior year, and that kept the Gators from winning the SEC in 1966. We had a near SEC title again in 1969, the Super Sauce. It's amazing that Tennessee won the SEC. Florida had a tie, unfortunately, on their schedule, and that was against Georgia, 13-13. So Florida comes in the second best team in the SEC, and we play Tennessee, the best team in the SEC, and beat them in the Gator Bowl. But here's the ironic thing about it. Doug Dickey had already been hired as the Florida football coach back in August.
Yeah.
Ray Graves had been fired as the Florida football coach back in August, but they let him coach his final year. And Dickey knew he was leaving for Florida. It was Buddy Martin and Jack Hairston that uncovered it. And 2 or 3 days before the Gator Bowl, Florida football players were threatening not to play the game at all. Max Dean was leading a revolt, and some cooler heads got in there and said, no, you can't. You just can't do that. Sorry, guys, but you just can't do that. But by golly, they made it a scary little entity there, and we just didn't know whether the game was going to be played at all. It was really, really strange how it all came about, because nobody knew that Ray Graves had coached an entire season as a lame duck coach. Well, Doug Dickey takes over. He had Florida. It took him about 5 or 6 years, but in 75 and in 76, he had the Gators poised and ready to win an SEC, but they always had something that screwed up. Always had something that screwed up. We had I guess it was in 75, that was when the famous end around pass from Gene Washington caught from the tight end. Henry Davis, the only touchdown pass he gave up all year, he slips in a puddle on a muddy Gator Bowl field and falls down, and they get the touchdown pass. Yeah. Amazing. Richard Appleby to Gene Washington. And I'll give you a little thing about how incestuous SEC football is. Gene Washington's roommate was Paul Wilson Sr. from Lakeland, Florida. Paul Wilson Sr.'s son ends up being one of the Lakeland 7 that signed with Urban Meyer. That included the Pouncey twins, Chris Rainey, and Ahmad Black. So wow. It just goes to show you how incestuous it is in this league.
Yeah.
But we had these 2 opportunities. We go on probation. We actually won the SEC in '84, but got stripped of that title by the SEC presidents and athletic directors, led by Vince Dooley, led by Tennessee. By the way, the only two schools that supported Florida were Auburn and Alabama. So you don't find Florida fans feeling resentful ever toward Alabama and Auburn. Not the older ones. We know what Alabama and Auburn did. They stood with us, like saying, look, this is wrong. What happened? You cheated, and that was wrong. But stripping the guys of what they did on the field was wrong.
Yeah, I like that. I remember that like it was yesterday. And when we had Ward Pell on the show, and I appreciate so much you hooking us up with her, that was one of the best segments we've ever had, because Charlie Pell needs to be appreciated for what he did to build Florida football. I mean, he woke up, but what did you say? He went all over Florida and said, look, I don't care if you graduated from the University of Florida or, you've been to 5 games or no games, but if you love Florida, you love the orange and blue of Florida, we want you, and we want you to be part of the family. And he asked for the business. He asked for the order, and that changed Florida football forever, more than any other coach they've ever had.
I agree with that. And here's the thing that he did, Rob. He got the boosters awakened.
Yeah.
Florida had the worst facilities. Here we had the largest school in the SEC at the time, and we still are. We're the second largest school in the SEC now. Texas A&M is the largest.
Yeah.
Soon we'll be the third largest because Texas will be in there also. But we got 62,000 students here now. Didn't have that many then, but we were still the largest school in the SEC. We're the second largest state in the SEC now, almost 23 million people. Third largest state in the country, behind Texas is number 2. And so we got a lot of things going here. But what we don't have going is any consistency in our football program. And people say, well, look at all of our resources and so forth like that. We should, emphasis on should, we should be better than that. Yeah. Now, I would tend to agree that Florida should be better than that. And it's ridiculous that we've been through 3 coaches since Urban Meyer fired. We're on our 4th. Will Muschamp, great defensive coach who recruited great defenses, but he couldn't recruit anything on offense. He got fired. He left behind an NFL defense for Jim McElwain. Old Yeller himself had 2 great years, but that was with Muschamp's defense. And then these guys graduate, and all of a sudden he's losing, and he's going to get fired. And of course, we can't forget the Will Grier situation, which I think contributed mightily to McElwain. Now, he never recovered from that because he had a real quarterback in Will Grier. Then along comes Dan Mullen, and Mullen won 3 years truly on his offensive brilliance. That was it. Yeah. Florida scored points. Florida could move the ball. And for 2 years, we did okay. We did pretty well defensively for 2 years. But then what happens with the defense? It falls apart. Yeah. It falls apart in the 2020 season. And then last year was a better year than 2020. But just the same, the defense falls apart. And Mullen did not. And that is what exposed Mullen's poor recruiting.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to say that, you got to have that coaching and development, which is true. You can't. It's hard to develop bad player. You can't turn a bad player into an SEC caliber player. I'm sorry, you just can't.
You can't grow cotton in the sands on the beach. You got to have that fertile delta soil. I mean, you're right. It's just you can't do it. That's that.
You can't. What's the old saying? You can't make chicken salad out of chicken poop.
Yeah, that's right.
And as much as you hate to tell guys that okay, you're just not good enough. at some point in time, you got to realize that certain guys aren't good enough. Matt Hayes wrote that Florida's got a front line that can really do it. And took the program apart. He is not very optimistic about the Gators. But Rob, here's the thing you can count on in college football, particularly in the SEC. Everybody in the SEC's got 22 players, even Vanderbilt. Okay, but with 22 players, you can't have a winning season. You're going to win 2-3 ball games if you're lucky, and you get some 1AA teams to play along the way. You may get 4. Okay, if you got 33 players, which a lot of teams have, you're going to get up to say maybe 5 wins with 33 players. If you got 44, Florida has 44. You can win 7 games. You could even win more, but the margin for error, it does not exist because if you have a key injury here or a key injury there, you are sunk.
Yeah.
This is the difference between Florida, where Florida is right now, and where Alabama and Georgia are.
Yeah.
Alabama and Georgia are 3 deep everywhere. 55, 60 players on scholarship who can play. It is plug in and play it.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet. And that's where the Gators are. But I will tell you this, Rob, if Florida can avoid injuries, and we got to remember something, 6 out of the first 7 games are in Gainesville. The 7th game, the away game, is at Tennessee. And if you follow the history out, which I know you do, Florida's won 16 of the last 17 against Tennessee, and Tennessee figures out creative ways to lose to the Gators.
They really
creative.
Yeah. Jimmy, all right, Franz just laid out a hell of a case. You look at this Florida team. They got, he says 44, but that not having those 15 or 20 more that Georgia and Alabama have, that's what separates these top 2 teams in the SEC from the other 12. But then you break it down even more so than that. But Jimmy, your thoughts?
Well, I want to go back to the evaluation of quarterbacks. When Will Greer was suspended his freshman year and the Gators came out of the gate undefeated, and he tested positive for in performance enhancing drug or whatever. I just cannot understand why McElwain was so intent of running him out of town. I mean, most coaches in a situation like that would say, okay, you made a mistake. You're going to spend the rest of the year coming to practice, improving your skills, trying to get better, working on your conditioning, and I want you to come back ready to roll this spring. Instead, as I mentioned earlier, he was just intent on running him out of town. And had he not done that and handled the Greer situation properly, I think he'd still be the coach. And it was just a disaster from that point on at quarterback. Then we fast forward to Dan Mullen. This guy's a great quarterback coach. He's mentored great quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy winners. But yet, I still can't understand, Franz, why that Kyle Trask, just didn't get an opportunity earlier to get meaningful playing time, because had Frank's not broken his ankle, we may have never been able to find out just how good Kyle Trask was and how good Florida could have been had he gotten to play a year and a half earlier. And Mullen's evaluation of quarterbacks, to me, in his last 2 or 3 years was just kind of a mystery. You look at last year, when Anthony Richardson had that breakout game against South Florida, as well as I do, in the post-game press conference, Mullen spent all his time trying to play down the type of performance Richardson had and give the kids some confidence. And it just turned out to be a mess, because I think if he would have handled the Richardson situation properly and just let him develop, make mistakes, and get ready for a monster 2022 season, Mullen would still be the coach.
Well, here's the thing that I look at, and I've been told this by players. Anthony Richardson was the guy, but Dan Mullen was bound and determined to show everyone that he could, we made the comment chicken salad from chicken poop, that he could take Emory Jones and turn him into an SEC caliber quarterback. Now, Emory has some talent. I'm not saying he's untalented.
Got about a minute and a half left.
He's not an SEC quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't throw off your back foot half the time. You can't be a guy that either holds it too long or lets it go too early, which he did.
Yeah.
And you can't be a guy that, when in doubt, run the ball, as opposed to when in doubt, you're looking for somebody to get it to. Here's the thing I love about Bryce Young. Bryce Young starts moving in the pocket. He is the threat to run the ball, and he's got good wheels. But the entire time that he is on the move, he is still looking downfield for somebody to throw it to, and he will throw the football rather than run it, unless he has a clear path. Like, he could have, it's like I-75, 3 lanes all the way to Atlanta, and if he's got that, he will run. But otherwise, he's looking to get the ball to a receiver. People talk about, they say, well, Florida doesn't have a breakout receiver who can get open. Well, I got to tell you, folks, Justin Shorter spent last year open, the whole year open. I tease him. I say, I'm glad you're over COVID. And he said, COVID? I didn't have COVID. I said, well, you must have, because nobody in the secondary would come close to covering you. Everybody kind of laid off of you, but they wouldn't throw you the football because they were afraid you'd get germs all over it.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He said, you noticed I was open. I said, yes, all year.
Yeah. Hey,
this is the guy 6'4" who's 230 pounds who runs a 4.3.
Yeah. Franz, you know what? I mean, we run out of time for this segment, and we'll talk with you more next week, but you laid out this case for Florida football, where they are, and really why they're where they are right now. And now you've got a coach who I think is the right guy at the right time for Florida. Like you and Buddy say, don't fall in love on the first date, but look at Billy Napier, where he's been and the people he's learned from. And it starts with his dad, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, whatever. I just think he's the right guy at the right time. And folks, read about it in GatorbaitMedia.com. Franz Beard, the professor. Wow. That was, I don't think I've ever heard such a good, tapestry, just going right down the list. But Franz, thanks so much for being on with us. We'll be right back with David Cutcliffe talking about quarterbacks and why they mean so much in college football.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Jimmy, I liked how you went back to Will Greer being suspended for, a violation of team rules, and we all know what it was. But that was a significant blow to Florida football. And I don't know how many times we have to see a case where something like that happens and it just kills the mojo, the chemistry, whatever, of a team and a program. And but the quarterback is the guy that I've read it over and over. Pat Dye said he never allowed his quarterbacks to have a negative thought, and that's why he said in practice he would always stand in the backfield on the offensive side watching his quarterbacks. You just can't think about that too much, but you better understand what he means. That guy that you have flying an F-18, or your airline pilot flying a 777 or whatever with 500 passengers at 40,000 feet, he better be the guy that if you say, what do you do if you lose an engine halfway across the Atlantic at 40,000 feet? I got 3 others. Next question, Jimmy. Before David Cutcliffe joins us, and he knows a thing or two about coaching quarterbacks, you look at Emory Jones. I liked Emory Jones' story last year because he hung in there and he didn't transfer and all, but he wasn't up to the standard of what you need to win in the SEC. And you're right. Mullen did try to spend an entire press conference after the South Florida game not wanting to talk about Anthony Richardson. It's dangerous trying to prove all the time that you're the smartest person in the room, isn't it?
Yeah. And, all along last year when we were talking about this time of training camp, the very beginning of, your preparation for the first game of the year, I was just always skeptical of Emory Jones and his inability to throw the ball down the field effectively. And in this league, if you can't do that, you're just going to have problems because opponents are going to put 8 guys in the box. They're going to outnumber your blockers. They're going to recover your receivers man to man with the belief that your quarterback can't make the throw if one of their corners gets beat in man coverage by a step or two, and again, you just have to have that guy that can hurt you with the vertical passing game. That's just where we are in the SEC right now.
Yeah. And you look at the quarterbacks. Look, everybody gets caught up too in the height of these guys. Bryce Young, he's barely 5'11", or 6 feet, whatever. Look at Drew Brees. How tall was he? And then that, they don't all look like Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning. Not all high school recruits look like Arch Manning, but the ones that do and train and study and, respect the game, they come in every height. They come from everywhere. But, man, that is a position where the most, important 6 inches on the field is between your ears. It's fascinating to watch programs try to wing it without a good quarterback. And you go back and you can just go down the list of every school in the SEC. You pick the conference nationwide and look how many times they try to get by without having, elite quarterback play or, really good quarterback play. I think it's impossible to do it. And there's so many programs that, they finished 9-3 or 10-2, and there was that game or two they lost because they didn't have the great quarterback. And that part of it, the mental part of it, it's ginormous, as my kids always would say. And I think about Anthony Richardson. They took him to SEC Media Days this year. He has not been the quote starter, and they took him up to Media Days. That tells you they think a lot of him. That doesn't mean it's bad. There have been quarterbacks before that went up to Media Days in Birmingham to Hoover that had never been the starter, except maybe in 1 or 2 games, and they flopped. I mean, I've actually seen a quarterback throw a backwards pass. Yes. I mean, it can happen. But I just think, when David Cutcliffe joins us here in a minute, he's a guy, and he just spent the last 13 years coaching at Duke. How hard is it if you don't have a quarterback to cover it up? You better have a great running back or some great skill players, Jimmy. That's what it really boils down to. You got to have, and then if you don't have a line to block for the quarterback, that's when you get in trouble.
Well, that's one of my favorite Nick Saban sayings, is that in this league, it's extremely hard to play quarterback when the guys around you are not playing well. And that's why, in my mind, Bryce Young's performance in the Iron Bowl last year was one of the most impressive, I think, in Alabama history, because he got sacked 7 times by the blitz-heavy Auburn scheme, which was a tremendous defensive game plan. And had anybody else in college football been Alabama's quarterback that day, I think 90% of them would have been sacked 7 more times.
Yeah.
Because there were countless occasions in which he just made a great athletic play or showed just amazing elusiveness to just get rid of the ball, to throw an incompletion and avoid a sack. And again, you just have to have everybody on the unit doing their job. And then you can have your offensive line, and just like what Franz was saying about his receiver that he was talking to, saying, hey, you were open all year, but if the quarterback doesn't make the right read or can't see the field or can't see receivers open, a play's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it takes 11 guys executing,
Yeah.
to be able to be successful out there. And that's why all this preparation during the summer and preseason camp and after the season begins is so critical, because you have to learn from your mistakes during practices, during scrimmages, during games, see them on tape, and then work every day to correct them. And that's why football is such a fascinating game, because you're always striving to improve and try to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, any team that's really good, is the players know what their teammates' responsibilities are. And defensive coordinator, I remember Brother Oliver, arguably the greatest defensive coordinator in SEC history. And you go back and you start looking around at why he was so successful. And I tell you, one of the cool things about him, he would make sure that everybody on the football team knew what each other's responsibilities were. And you go back, now we're joined by David Cutcliffe. And Coach Cutcliffe, first of all, welcome to Sidelines. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday morning. I got a chance to meet you and shake your hand at SEC Media Days, and I realized that you were back in the SEC office. But there are so many people that respect you and just love you and care about you. You've been around this league a while. You went to Banks High School. Is that where Johnny Musso went as well?
Absolutely. That's a good call by you right there. Now, not many people could put that one together. Johnny Musso and I went to he was a little older than I was, but went to the same church, played in the same baseball path, Little League baseball, and then I followed him at Banks. And what a great player the Italian Stallion was, and a great person.
Yeah.
Actually coached against one of his sons played at Northwestern and was on a team that we played in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So little tidbit.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, his nephew John was a Sigma Nu with me at Auburn from Mountain Brook. Great people. And Coach, I tell you, I've followed your career. Jimmy Hodge has as well for a long time, and you've been successful wherever you've been. And if you could kind of tell us where did all this journey? I know it started at Banks High School, but you went to Alabama. Did you know then that you were destined to be the coach? And you just finished 13 years at Duke. Of course, you've coached at Tennessee, head coach at Ole Miss. You've had an incredible journey. So we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I actually probably did know at 15 or 16 years old that I wanted to coach. Knowing that you're going to or get to is a whole different circumstance, but that was one of my nicknames. I was really a good student of the game as a player, and so that's one of the things teammates did call me. And I had a passion for it, but it developed even more so with the respect I had for Coach White at Banks, Bobby Johns, who was my brother's best friend. Bobby had played at Alabama. My brother played at Florida. They kind of got me started down that path too when I was young. And my father passed away in an automobile accident at 15. And those coaches, do what coaches are supposed to do. They picked me up, but they demanded my best. There was no time to feel sorry for yourself. And I wanted to pay that forward. And I could have played some football at more of the lower level on scholarship, but I ended up going to Alabama because I tell you things that interested me about Coach Bryant. Every Sunday, maybe all the way to I was 5 or 6 years old, I'd be always outside playing, and my mother would holler for me to come because it was close. She would say, "It's almost 4 o'clock." I'd run in and watch Coach Bryant's show.
Yeah.
And I'm 13-inch black and white TV, taking every bit of it. And, his term, this is what got me. I've not really ever told this story, but he always talked about surrounding himself with winners. And I was a fiercely competitive kid, and I just liked that term. And I wanted to be around those winners, and I found a way, and I went down there, and I found a way to work and gained some respect for people. I helped Coach Rutledge in the dorm. I was really tempted to walk on, but it was a better path. And then they were so good to me, and I guess I worked pretty hard, so I earned my tuition, which I couldn't afford anyway. And so it turned out to be my path. And then that way I had access to Coach Donahue and Coach Moore and, listen to Coach Bryant. And what a great way to learn. And I tell young people, and you're asking me how I did it, the path basically is this: we're born to family, then we choose your people. Don't ever choose places you're going to go, choose people. People are your path. And choosing winners, choosing the right kind of people. And then I tried to reverse that. We were successful, not because of me as I started coaching, as I started hiring people, even as a coordinator. I tried to really focus on who they were, not what they knew. And I think that's really helped our path through the years, that we've done it right. We've done it with integrity, and we have surrounded ourselves with winners to steal a line from Coach Bryant. But, I will say this too: Suge Jordan had an effect on me, which maybe makes some of my Alabama friends, and Charlie McClendon at LSU, and that era of coaches made a huge difference. And then I had 10 years with Johnny Majors, another guy from that era, and I was around Coach Dye a bunch. Coach Dye, I called him when I got the Ole Miss job. I said, "Tell me who I need to hire that you coach." And he said, "Ron Middleton will make you a good coach." I didn't really know Ron. I called Ron, offered him a job. He said yes and came home.
Yeah.
One of the best things I've ever done. But again, it's choosing the right kind of people. And I knew Pat Dye would know somebody from their system, and I wanted to hire somebody from that Coach Dye family.
Coach, hearing you talk, our theme of our show, and that's a shout out to Robert Durham and Maury Gaston and John Hearn, is history, traditions, and heroes. And, hearing you talk about the people that have helped shape your life, and losing your father when you were 15, how you just kept fighting on through. That's why the players over the years that you've brought in bust their ass for you. I mean, it's so obvious. And by the way, I was watching More Than a Voice about the great announcers in the SEC. And
Oh,
there
yeah.
you are for John Ward's last Vol walk. And he goes, this crowd of some 100,000 will rise to their feet, and the pride of the Southland band will come out and form the giant T. And anywhere you are, no matter where you are, and here they come, it's football time in Tennessee. And I'm just going, wow, you were there.
That was a great imitation. You just got me fired up there, brother.
Well, you just got to realize, as an Auburn grad, growing up in Memphis, listening to John Ward and Bill Anderson, I love, they just said, Bill, just say something. You go, well, that was a great lead tackle right there, going around on left end. And you just got to think, Tennessee's really getting after it. All right. And now with 1:21 to go, give him 6. And you think about all the memories. And I think it's like, how do you, when now you're in the SEC office and all, but along the way, some of the cool stories you've been able to coach, some great ones. We know Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, and now there's Arch Manning there. What is it that makes a great quarterback great? How do you get them to find excuses to win when everyone else is telling them it can't be done?
Yeah, well, obviously, we all know it takes extreme gifted talent, but that's not close to enough. I think when I look at quarterbacks that I believe are great, whether I've coached them or not, and I've had the good fortune to coach a number of first-round draft choices, and all a little different, but the common thing, let's just get away from throwing the ball and accuracy. Those are some obvious things, but is the ability to make practice, and sorry, Allen Iverson, but practice like a game. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a level that you just can't put a definition to. It is every rep, what people call, focusing on the little things. Well, a lot of people
Coach, can I ask you to stop for just, we're going to take a quick break. Hold that thought. Yep. We're going to come back right after this quick message. We're at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas with Coach David Cutcliffe. Stay with us. This is great. Be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown, Jimmy Hodge back here with longtime football coach, been Tennessee, Ole Miss, Duke the last 13 years, Coach David Cutcliffe. And Coach, we were talking before the break about making a quarterback, and you had some incredible advice, and I'm taking notes, and so is everybody else, so please keep going.
Yeah, the thing that the ability to make practice like a game, those reps are what makes you. And what I've always talked to starters about is that you better practice like you're the backup. And if I got a number 2 guy that's not playing in games, I'm going to sit down with him, and we're going to sit down early and before we even get to spring practice and let him understand the value that every rep he has in practice is a Super Bowl. And it takes a little bit of imagination. It takes a lot of discipline. But when I knew Peyton was special, I'll tell you a story. I'd had this conversation with him, And all our freshman quarterbacks, I would send them away from me. I'd be with the quarterbacks, receivers. I always would send them down to what we call blitz pickup, which is the running backs in the line and the tight ends doing blitz work. And you go down there and take the snap, and you just, they're not going to pay any attention to you. So Peyton goes down there, and he's down there, and they got this drill, and nobody's paying any attention to him. Well, that night, I'm looking at all the film, which I always do, and I get to that drill by myself, and Peyton is playing a game. He is pointing and communicating with imaginary receivers. He's dropping back, making imaginary reads, throwing the ball, pocket movement. I mean, you guys know what he looks like with those feet moving up. And it's a full-fledged 10-minute game. And nobody had even noticed it. And I got up out of my chair and did one of those fist pumps. I'm like, yes, this is it right here. I am on fire with this guy. And I mean, it was amazing. And that's what it takes. And I don't care if you're in the National Football League. That's why Peyton and Eli and Daniel does it too, would come back in the off season, because you have to create that at practice. One of the ways we got good at Duke is, I said, it's not cool to be a Duke football player. Y'all all know that. And that's why we can win. We don't have to be cool. We just have to work hard.
Yeah.
And NFL players need critiqued. They need to work hard. They need, even the receivers they brought would love it. You don't have it made once you're in the league. You don't have it made once you've been in there 8 years. Either getting better or you're getting worse. And so that's the quarterback thing. It's a hunger. Why does Tom Brady keep playing? I get asked that a lot. He's hungry. He feeds off of it. He lives it. That's his high. And, Tom Moore's a good friend. Tom's down there still in his 80s coaching. And he talks about Peyton and Tom, but they love football practice. They love football, but they love football practice, and it shows in how they play.
Yeah, it really does. And I think what I'm hearing you talk about is that they have a picture of who they are. Jack Nicklaus at age 46, when he wins the Masters in 1986, and you think, why is he still out there doing that with all the money he has? What else does he need to do? But who will ever forget? Yes, sir, from Vern Lundquist. And he's going to be on the show with us, I believe, in late September. Vern Lundquist is. And I don't know
He's
how.
Fun. Tell him I said hello when you talk to him.
I will. We have a mutual friend that made this possible. And I talked to Vern Lundquist's brother the other day, and I mentioned our friend of the show, Lauren Smith, longtime, sideline reporter of the Georgia football broadcast. And
absolutely.
Is it getting any better? I mean, Jimmy, jump into this conversation with a question for Coach, but what you just said may be the single most profound. Coach Jordan, I'm an Auburn grad, said, "Don't wait to be great, son. Kickoff's in 5 minutes. I need you today." The other one is,
yes,
I told my starters always to practice as hard or harder than the backups. That is as profound as it gets. Thank you, Coach.
Well, it's the only way. It is the only way you're going to be great, and it's in practice. Coach Aristotle was the best. I don't know what he coached. It must have been kick the rock. I don't think there were any balls then, cans. But we become what we repeatedly do. And if all you have are habits of excellence and intensity, guess what you become?
Yeah.
And that's what those guys believe in.
Yeah, absolutely great. Jimmy?
Yeah, Coach, what I wanted to talk about was your coaching journey. You talked about your initial experience with Coach Bryant, and then you were a high school coach for a few years, and we know how important high school football is. It's the lifeblood of college football. And then after a few years, you made that decision to move into the college ranks. And I was just curious, a lot of coaches at that age have to make a tough decision. am I going to be a career high school coach? And in many cases, especially if you're already a head coach, you know you're going to have a lasting impact on young players at that stage of their football careers. In many cases, for the rest of their lives, they're going to remember the lessons and everything else, developing into the best player they could be at that age, and they'll remember that forever. But then also that ability to go to the next level and develop young players as they're moving into college. And I guess the one saying we always hear is for players that went to Michigan, you become a Michigan man after 4 years. You came in as somebody that was uncertain about what lied ahead in their futures. And then after 4 years at Michigan or whatever school you were at, but that's the one we hear the phrase, the Michigan man. How tough a decision was that for you? And at what time in your time at Banks did you realize that, hey, I think I'm going to want to move on to the college level and see what that's like?
Well, that's a great question, and it's a unique circumstance. First of all, I had no intention of ever doing anything but trying to be the best high school football coach I could be, because you're exactly right. I mean, that's the first real taste of football. It is developmental in every aspect. My son's a head high school football coach in Oxford, Mississippi, and couldn't be more proud of him. He made that decision. That's what he wanted to do. And that's where I was, and was very happy, and became a head football coach probably much too young, but we had gone undefeated, and we had some prospects on our team, and this is really how it happened. Philip Fulmer and John Majors came by practice, and they were supposed to stay about 15 minutes and watch us practice. We had probably 3 or 4 SEC players on that particular team, and they were really, really after one of them hard. So they came, I shook their hand, and I go back to coaching, and we're going at it pretty good. And you heard what I just said about practice. That wasn't something new for me. I've always been that way, and they stayed. And then Coach Majors asked to see me in his office, or excuse me, in my office. And he said, "Where did you learn to run a practice like that?" And I said, "Well, that's the only way I know." And I said, "This, combination of Banks High School, Alabama, and just what we believe in." And he said, "Well, I'm going to call you after the season and offer you a job." And I'm like, "Yeah, right. Okay." So they leave, and we go on. We have a great year. Philip calls me, and he says, "Hey, Coach wants you to fly up and visit." I'm like, "What?" So I flew up there, and I sat down with him. I was single, and so it was just it just felt like right. I called Coach Donahue. I talked to 2 other coaches at Alabama, and they said, and Coach Donahue was a Tennessee grad, of course, and Coach Goosetree. And so I just kind of took a leap of faith. I never asked him what he was going to pay me. It was next to nothing. I went up there working the first year coaching tight ends for less than $4,000 a year. And that's not a lie. Now I'll show you my Social Security. I wished I'd asked him. I'd have gotten a little bit more than that, but he told me it wasn't healthy for a young single assistant coach to make too much money. And a couple of years later, I told him, I said, "Coach, thank you. I'm the healthiest college football coach in the country." He looked at me with a side eye and said, "I hear you." So I got a bit of a raise there, but I will say this. In part of my thought process, because you hit it, you said Michigan man. We developed some Duke men. We did. Those years, as I go back in my life, are the most formative years when you get out from under the roof of your parents. And as a college coach, they're not under your roof except for in the locker room per se, but they don't live under your roof. But well, what an opportunity. And that's what I don't want to see lost in college football is the influence, the proper influence, all coaches and the equipment people and the trainers and that college football family can have in developing these young men into great members of any community they're going to be a part of.
Yeah.
And those are formative years. We all know it. The decisions we make can affect us the rest of our lives. And we don't know where we're headed. We're scared to death if we wanted to admit it.
Yeah.
And I'm missing that. As I go around and go to practices, I chat with a few of the players time to time and, have a chuckle and a laugh. And it's an interesting thing. I think it makes me miss coaching more. The relationships with players and coaches is what makes it such an addictive thing to do, I guess is what I would call it.
I noticed you at SEC Media Days. A lot of people, and they love you. And I mean, my friend Pete Cordelli knows you from when you were at Ole Miss, and I think about just the relationships that you have throughout the years, and just wherever it is, and your last 13 years at Duke. That's a lot of time to be the head coach. That's longer, than you were at any other place. But I like what you said. You got the Duke men, and isn't it true that the people that you go through absolute hell with, the toughest of times, are the closest friends you'll ever have in life?
No question. And that's why one of my favorite sayings, and they'll hear me hollering on the practice, it's not supposed to be easy. Don't be hunting easy. There's no easy buttons. And it is absolutely not supposed to be easy. So understand where the value lies.
Yes, sir.
And, when you sweat with people and you, to some degree, bleed and you're defeated together, you win together. The value of team, and that's what, I have concerns like everybody else is where is name, image, and likeness headed? Mm-hmm. Where is and when should a young man even really consider, transferring? At what point? The early transfers, what are you missing of having to try to overcome some adversity? And I'm not old school. I don't mind change, and I think it's all appropriate, but it's got to be properly utilized for it to be appropriate and benefit. That's where I differ when I read comments of some of the things that come out of the higher levels of our governance in college football. And I'm talking about NCAA. Well, this is good for the athlete. Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with one?
Yeah.
Let's really understand what's good. I just think we got to really, that's why I took the job I did. Maybe I can be heard here or there or around the corner occasionally by some of the higher levels. And, I've had boots on the ground. I coached 46 years and it's important to me. So hopefully they do listen a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes. And after that, I want to come back for another question. But I want to say this too. You look at the scrutiny for young Arch Manning. That's the grandson of Elijah Archibald Manning from Drew, Mississippi, down in the Delta. I hunt down there. I hunt in Lambert. Okay. I know that. I mean, you think about, you can't, if Monet, if Michelangelo were to paint college football on a fresco, it would start in places like Drew, Mississippi, wouldn't it? These small towns where it matters. It's the passion that it's where it all begins. I love it. You think about Archie Manning's grandson now, and he's under the magnifying glass. How good can he be?
Yeah, he's got to have fun. That's what I keep telling him.
Yeah.
Football is fun. There is no, he's got all of the DNA. He's got a lot of skill, but he's not playing for any other reason other than being the best teammate he can be and the joy of competing and playing the game. If he'll do that, he'll survive this. You just can't live that kind of pressure every day at that age.
Yeah, and when we look around at the quarterback position today, and want to get started on this, and then after the break you can finish it. But when you look at offensive linemen, receivers, running backs, and everything like that, are we getting ahead of ourselves with too many different camps guys are going to versus just sticking with their team and their coaches? Is that a problem? Too many different people telling them? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of all the summer, too much summer activity. I think college football recruits scholastically. That's where we should go. We should be dealing with families and high school coaches. It's not a showcase sport.
Yeah.
The more you get to showcase sport, the more you get third parties involved. Anytime third parties are involved in the process, relationships aren't nearly as good. So that's a huge problem we face right now in college football to avoid that.
Yeah, and I see where that can go. We're gonna do this. We'll take a break. We got time for one more question, if you can, Coach. We really appreciate this time because what you're saying is why the SEC, that has to be one of the smartest hires that Commissioner Sankey has ever made, is to have someone with your wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you can impart. And I'm sure people are listening. And when we come back with just your closing comments, and Jimmy has one more question for you. We'll be right back.
All right.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we're with Coach David Cutcliffe about we got one more question I know, Jimmy, you had for Coach. And again, Coach, I want to thank you so much for taking time and look forward to having you on here again soon. But everybody out there, take notes and be glad that the SEC has brought Coach Cutcliffe in, because coaches are going to be able to tap into to his brain, and they'll be better for it. But Jimmy, one more question.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to move ahead to where we're going right now, because in your current position, you're going, I know, all around the league to visit the different coaching staffs and the camps, and to get a lay of the land from what their feelings are in regard to the new reality, NIL, transfer portal. And in your last season as head coach, that was the first season of NIL. This time last year, we had no idea what lied ahead or what was going to happen. And we had all kinds of crazy developments that different schools could find to create opportunities in NIL. And I think the best description I heard was at the recent ACC Media Days from Wake Forest basketball coach Steve Forbes. He said that he felt what's caused the biggest firestorm among coaches was that the coaches believed that NIL was meant to be used as a retention tool to keep players, to reward players that had proved they were going to be significant contributors and give them an opportunity to, profit from their name, image, and likeness. But instead, it became a recruitment tool, which has been seen by some of the recruiting classes that certain schools were able to land in the class of 2022 high school recruiting crop. And I was just curious about what their feeling is, what the consensus you're getting from the coaches and the schools you're visiting about what's going on in these two areas.
Yeah, there's no one that is happy with this outcome. What you described very well as to what it's become. One thing for both of you, and it's become a pet peeve a little bit, but I don't like the term NIL because it's taken the real meaning of it. So when you just what you said, NIL, you hear collective, you hear recruiting. Well, I was in on a lot of the early national meetings because I was the only coach on the football oversight committee when it first came up. This was a few years ago. Name, image, and likeness. You said it well, or coach said it well at Wake. If someone else is profiting off of your name, your image, and your likeness, I don't care what you do, athlete or otherwise, you deserve some form of pay from that. You know, there should be a fee for using your name, image, and likeness, and that's all good. In these conversations, there were presidents and certain directors of athletics and different people on this committee. They were all, and I said, well, how do you regulate this and not become a recruit? Well, it won't be a recruiting issue. I kind of chuckled. I said, how long y'all been around? I said, do you understand college football and how important it is to so many people? This before you go down this road, we better really have a plan. The law of unintended consequences is what we just saw. Okay, state laws getting involved in it, politicians getting involved, and even courts for that matter. This is not an issue that is needing to, in my opinion, to be battled in courts. But now we've gotten it to where so much money is involved, and it's profitable not just to the player. Think of the other people. There are agents and lawyers and lawsuits, and God bless us, but I don't want the players hurt long term. Yeah. So do I approve of name, image, and likeness? Yes, 100%. And I think it can be profitable for a program. If you got a hot shot quarterback, I'm the first one to remind him, what the most important group to you is that offensive line. Everybody knows that. Yeah. But what to me, to be a great quarterback, you got to have your best friend's a run game, and their twin is your defense. And so, that's team. And so isn't there a way that name, image, and likeness is Auburn University's team, not just an individual? Does that make sense to you guys at all?
Absolutely. You've got the brand that's been built for 150, 200 plus years.
Yes. And so I don't know if there is any ability to keep it out of courts, any ability to win a case. But you know what? I've been fighting all my life, and I'd be ready to fight some more before I let it see it, ruin the greatest team game of them all, and that's college football.
I agree. And Coach, listen, I want to again say the free market, I believe, will work it all out. And Ivan Maisel said on this show back around Thanksgiving, in college, it's all about the love of the laundry. In the pro game, which I love the pro sports, but I want to see them be separated. It's about the name on the back of the jersey. And we don't want to ever lose that connection. And hearing what you just said, I wish every person who is as successful and well-known as you are would be as kind and humble and just decent as you. And I want to thank you for being on here and look forward again to our next visit. And I hope the coaches will be tapping into your wisdom because, and the players, I would have loved if I was a player to have played for you because you would inspire people to run through a brick wall. You learned from the best, you took it, and you took your own personal coaching. And this has been one of the best segments we've ever had. And thank you.
I appreciate you, Scott. Y'all take care now.
All right. Be careful today, Coach. And David Cutcliffe, very special interview there with him, and just really appreciate him staying on a little bit long today. Hopefully, Jimmy, Richmond Weaver said he was going to be trying to get on at about 20 till. That man is busier than a one-legged man in a kick fight. Putting together that documentary on the 100 years of the Southern Conference, the SoCon Super Conference, and also covering his Clemson Tigers. And Jimmy, man, where do you start with the takeaways from what Coach Cutcliffe said, other than he loves the game, and I'm just glad he's in Birmingham at the SEC office, because he will be very influential in going forward. And I didn't know he was on that rulemaking committee, and I'm glad he shared his thoughts, because, again, nobody's against people making money, but don't forget that university as well, what they do for you. So it's a combination, and you're right. You know, if you're a quarterback, running back, you better be taking care of your offensive lineman. You know, I mean, once a week at the steakhouse enough? I don't know, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
maybe twice.
Yeah, I mean, those Power 5 schools, those dining arrangements are pretty good. There's more than a few 5-star chefs employed in those conferences. So, but yeah, it's just the perception, the appreciation by the high-profile players, meaning the skill position players that have the ball in their hands most of the time, realizing that any success they have isn't going to happen without the work of the offensive linemen and other players that do a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet that allow you to be successful. So yeah, it's really critical. It's a fine line, and I think, though, a lot of coaches would be well served to follow Nick Saban's advice last year on the first day of preseason camp, when he told his players in regard to NIL. At the end of the day, it's not going to be a lot different from what happens in the NFL, in that the skill position players, the high-profile players, are going to be the guys that have the ball in their hands most of the time. And there's only going to be a few guys like that are going to get those big deals. You know, it's just the way it works. And if you guys, during your time here, continue to improve and become the best player you can be, and you have the God-given talent, things are going to work out well for you, at the next level of football. So I think that's the way you more or less have to handle it. And at the same time, I think virtually every player on a Power 5 roster is doing pretty well with this cost of attendance arrangement and all of that. So I think now it's just time to focus on playing football, and then worry about that stuff or the other stuff once the season is over.
Hey, Rod, I got you, man. We don't have a lot of time today. I know Richmond's been busy, but hold that Tiger, Clemson Tigers. Everybody's kicking off college football practice right now. And look, last year, by Clemson's recent standards, 10-3 was an off year. What are you expecting out of the Tigers as they crank up practice, man? And we want to get you back on next week for a longer segment, but I know y'all are hungry, okay?
Yeah, everybody's hungry. Appetite is huge right now for college football, as everybody's really at the point where they're done talking. Yeah. Talking season's over. That's right. It's now practice, and everything is getting amped up, ramped up, however you want to describe it. And Clemson actually will have their practice today that will be open to the media later this afternoon. So obviously a lot of excitement and a lot of high expectations. Can this be a quote unquote rebound year? And we heard the comments from Nick Saban talking about last year was a rebuilding year for Alabama, and that's getting to a national championship game. And if that's rebuilding, my goodness, what are the expectations fans are putting on these programs right now? But that's just the reality of it. When you're at a Power 5 conference, and if you're a Clemson player or a Clemson coach, this is just the expectation that you have to be accepting and understand that the demand is there, especially when you win 2 national championships in the past 8 years. So you've got to be able to now go out on the football field and execute. And you can talk about culture. You can talk about, all of the things that make successful programs from the foundation building up and out. But we know sports is the ultimate meritocracy. And Dabo Swinney talked about it at the ACC kickoff in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago when he's referring to some specific players, more importantly, DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback, and knows that at the end of the day, it's all about performance. You got to go out there when the red light is on and perform. But everybody's excited because from a fan base right now, you gentlemen know it. You've got this renewed hope. We call it hopium. It's time that, this is the beginning of the season where everybody's undefeated and you're sitting there. Can this be the year? Can this be the magical season that we're hoping for? And that's what is so fantastic about college football and ultimately sports in general.
Well, hopium and heroism. I mean, that's college football, man. You're right. Let's. We only got a few minutes, so the concerns that you have about Clemson that last year were a problem, are they being addressed as you would like to see them addressed? And offense, defensive lines.
But here's the biggest thing, gentlemen, is in life and in sports, there are certain things that are uncontrollable. And you have to get to a position where you accept those in life, that you can't control certain external factors. And one of those is injuries. Yeah. You can't predict those. You can't be in a position and understand exactly, well, if this player is injured, then I've got to be prepared for X player over here to be able to backfill that spot. Obviously, you have that just in your depth chart, but what happens when that player gets hurt who is supposed to replace your starter? And then if that player also gets hurt, who is replacing your second string person? And unfortunately for Clemson, you had several situations where that happened. So when you have that type of situation happening, and not to take anything away from Pittsburgh, from NC State, that we're able to finally beat Clemson in the ACC, not taking that away from those teams. But I think if you look at it objectively, the Clemson team that were taking the field in those games, they were not the same type of Clemson team that we've seen in the past, not only just from a talent perspective, but just from a perspective of injuries and health. But at the end of the day, there was also some depth issues that caused some of those discrepancies in talent that we typically see with Clemson, and that's on the offensive line. And then it was obviously also just from a quarterback perspective, the quarterback play was not as good as it has been in the past. So, can this be a year that you have a little bit more stability on the offensive line with guys playing in their natural positions? And I think that's going to be a big key, and that's what we're seeing right now. And then obviously, can DJ Uiagalelei, can he have the weapons around him from a wide receiver standpoint and a running back by committee type of situation, especially when you have a player like a Will Shipley who showcased what he could do as a freshman, but can he make that next leap as a sophomore and have some support also? Because at the end of the day, Clemson doesn't have a Travis Etienne anymore, and that's a big void to fill regardless of how good Will Shipley might be. He's not at Travis Etienne type of level at this point, and that's some of the things that you have to look at. But as we know, gentlemen, quarterback, that's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And Clemson have DJ Uiagalelei make some progression, and he doesn't have to go out there and be a world beater.
Yeah.
He's going to have an unbelievable defense. We've already seen that, 247 Sports has put Clemson as the number 2 defense in the country. You're seeing, other individuals like Trenton Simpson being named the number 1 linebacker in the ACC. So you've got talent on that defense. So you don't have to go out there and be the guy like a Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson. But if you get something like that out of DJ, watch out for Clemson.
Well, real quick, we're about 30 seconds to go. This is a text came in from Cajun Man from Lake Charles, Louisiana. Tanner Smith, he says, it isn't Travis A10, it's Travis A. Sean. So, Cajun Man, frustration with the pronunciation.
That's right, yes.
Hey, look, we've run out of time today. Great stuff. Listen, folks, go out and help somebody with the expectation of nothing in return. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Great show. Be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., sidelines.live. Richmond, you are great. We love having you on. Look forward to talking with you next week. We're going to give you a lot more time. Have a great day, everybody. We're out of here.